It is Brunch with Bernie. Senator Bernie Sanders on the line with us. And, Senator, welcome. No? Yes? Oh, he lost his headphones. Or he's on the telephone. No?
Hello.
Bernie? Hey, Bernie.
Hello. How are you?
Great. And great to have you with us. But by the way, people can call in after our brief conversation here. You'll be taking calls in our national town hall meeting, 866-987-THOM. So, Senator, your thoughts on where we are at this moment in time, just a few days out from the election?
Well, Tom, it is a remarkable and hugely important moment in American history, and what we'll be voting on next Tuesday will determine to a significant degree the future of this country. And, what I always get very upset about is media coverage of campaigns, and especially this campaign, where it is regarded as nothing more than a sporting event, who's winning and who's losing, and what do you have to do to win Ohio, when in fact we have to take a hard look at the policies being advocated by Republicans and Democrats, by Romney and Obama. And I think if we do that, and we just spend a few minutes thinking about what's happening in this country, where we have to go, the degree to which Romney's policies really are very similar to what George W. Bush's policies were, which to a significant degree got us into this mess in the first place, I think most people will conclude that, we've got to move forward with Obama, and we've got to do everything we can to strengthen Obama in fighting for working families. But going back to the Bush policies of more tax breaks for the wealthiest people in this country, when we already have the most unequal distribution of wealth and income of any major country on earth, and that inequality is getting worse. The idea that you want to go forward with more deregulation of Wall Street, when in fact that is exactly what allowed Wall Street to engage in incredibly reckless and greedy and illegal behavior, which drove us into this recession. The idea that you want to greatly expand unfettered free trade when we have lost 55,000 factories in the last 10 years and millions of decent paying jobs. So to my mind, what we are seeing, especially as a result of this horrendous Citizens United Supreme Court decision, is billionaires, and there are really dozens of billionaires out there, the Koch brothers, Sheldon Adelson, and many, many others, who are pouring huge sums of money into the Obama campaign, into campaigns all over this country, to make sure that the wealthiest people continue to do even better, while they step all over working families and elderly people and children and the sick. And I think we've got to say no, that is just not acceptable in this country. I get also very, disturbed by the fact that having, all of us have seen what Hurricane Sandy has done to New Jersey, New York, and understand that virtually the entire scientific an agreement that global warming is real. Global warming is substantially caused by human activity. And global warming is causing devastating problems for the United States and for the world. And that you have Republicans out there who are talking about...
We can hear you fine, Bernie.
Okay. Who are talking about global warming as a non-issue. I don't know how often Romney even mentions the issue. And I can tell you that my colleague on the Environmental Committee, Jim Inhofe from Oklahoma, if the Republicans gain control over the United States Senate, Inhofe will be chairman of the Environmental Committee, and Jim Inhofe has been very clear. He believes global warming is a hoax, and many other Republicans share that view. Is that really the direction we want to go in this country when the scientific community believes the very opposite of that? In terms of women's rights, I find it very, very disturbing. After all of the struggles for decades and decades and decades, the fight for women's rights in the economy, the fight for women to control their own bodies are under a fierce assault right now from right-wing Republicans. I think when you add all of this stuff up together, what you find is that the Republican Party, which has moved very, very far to the right, which is dominated by very, very wealthy people, a relatively small number of billionaires, whose social policies are extremely reactionary. And I don't think as a nation that is the direction in which we want to go.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm curious about your thoughts. Can you hear me, Senator? We're having a little technical snafu here.
I'm having an echo on my end, Tom.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. That makes it difficult to talk. I know. We will fix this during the break in 4 minutes, and I think we'll just go back to using the telephone. But I'm curious your thoughts about Romney's closing argument, which he's making right now, which is basically elect me, or the Republicans in the House of Representatives will kneecap the country.
I think that's an outrageous argument. Essentially, what he is saying is that we're going to reward right-wing extremism. We're going to say to these people who have participated in a level of obstructionism which is unprecedented in the modern history of this country, that thank you for all that you've done in trying to prevent us from passing any significant legislation. And because you've been so adamant, you've been so obstructionism, that we are going to reward you. And yes, we shouldn't elect Obama because we know that you guys will continue to filibuster and prevent any serious legislation from being passed. I think that's an outrageous argument. In this country, we do not reward obstructionism and extremism and say, we surrender, you guys win, and we're going to cave in and give you what you want. I don't think that's appropriate, and I don't think that's what the American people want. So the answer is no. We're not going to cut Social Security. We're not going to cut Medicare and Medicaid. We're not going to give more tax breaks to the rich and run up the deficit, because that is what billionaires and right-wing extremists want. Yeah. So I think that argument is just a horrendous argument. It really says to somebody who holds a gun to your head, okay, you got it, we're surrendering, and you have the country. What we must demand is that the United States Congress start listening to the American people who have been very, very clear in demanding that Congress represent the middle class, working families, and stop bowing down day after day to the needs of millionaires and billionaires.
Okay, Bernie, by the way, if you want to just pick up your phone and talk to us in the minute we have left here, it may be a little less stressful for everybody. I just got the phone up and you're on. Can you hear me on the phone now?
I can hear you on the phone, yes.
Oh, okay, great. So the last minute here before the break, get out the vote.
Well, I think, one of the things we have also seen in this campaign is not only the horrendous role that Citizens United is playing in allowing billionaires to make huge contributions into the political process and buy and sell politicians. We've also seen a massive amount of voter suppression efforts on the part of Republicans. So their idea of democracy is to allow billionaires to buy elections and then do everything you can to prevent elderly people, working people, poor people from participating. The antidote to that, obviously, is a huge voter turnout. And I hope very much that all over this country, in Vermont and throughout America, people are going to say, yeah, we do understand that this election is enormously important, that it's vital not only for us but for our kids and our grandchildren. We are going to vote, and we are not going to accept right-wing extremism.
Yeah. Absolutely, and it could affect the Supreme Court in ways that will affect generations
Absolutely.
As well. Senator Bernie Sanders with us, our national town hall meeting, Brunch with Bernie. We'll be back with your questions for Senator Sanders right after this. Stick around here on the Thom Hartmann Program. And welcome back, Thom Hartmann here with you. And let me lock Bernie's line. Bernie, you're here?
I'm right here on the telephone.
Okay, great. Yeah, that seems to be working. Zoe, if I'm saying that right, in Dearborn Heights, Michigan? You are on with Senator Sanders.
Oh, thank you, Senator. Yesterday, the UAW filed paperwork with the government against Romney for profiteering in the Delphi deal. What effect is that going to have if they find them guilty with this election?
Well, it would be a very, very strong statement. I think, that most people now understand, or should understand, that folks like Romney make a lot of their profits at the expense of working people. These are guys who come in, take over a company, even if it's profitable, dismember it, sell it off, And in other instances, if they can make more money, they move that company to China. That is what they do. And clearly, as a nation, we have got to do the very opposite. What we have got to do is strengthen companies, not dismember them. And we have got to demand that corporate America start investing in the United States of America and not in China and other low-wage countries. So that's kind of what I think about that.
Okay. Robert, watching Free Speech TV in Northeast Maryland. You're on the air, Senator Sanders.
Yeah. Hi, Bernie.
Hi, Robert.
Thanks for your time. Yeah, I got a question. With waterfront property being at a premium and probably owned by the rich, probably 90% of it or better, why do they love the Coach Butler and
why do they what?
fuel agenda? Why do they love the Coach Butler and fossil fuel agenda of climate warming?
Why do the rich people love the fossil fuel agenda? Why are they denying global warming, basically?
Well, I think the answer is pretty obvious, Robert. If you are the head of ExxonMobil, you're making a whole lot of money. And ExxonMobil and other oil companies are very, very profitable. Coal companies are very, very profitable. And what is quite amazing is these people are willing to gamble away the future of the planet and bring devastating harm to billions of people all over the world in order to protect their profits within the fossil fuel industry. In my view, as a nation, we can play a leadership role in this world, and global warming is obviously a planetary crisis, not just an American crisis, in transforming our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency. We can save huge amounts of money for homeowners, for renters, for building owners all over this country by moving to energy efficiency and cutting substantially greenhouse gas emissions. We can also create a whole lot of jobs by moving to wind, solar, geothermal, biomass, and other sustainable energy. So, Robert, the bottom line there is I think some of our friends in the fossil fuel industry, ExxonMobil and all the rest, they love their huge profits, and they could care less about what's happening to the planet.
Yeah, and well said. And then they've convinced people of that. They've got the Fox voice megaphone and all the right-wing talk radio and everything else. We'll be back with more of your calls for Senator Bernie Sanders.
You should register and vote this November. I think that is a matter of plain good citizenship.
Plain good citizenship. Welcome back. It's our Brunch with Bernie hour. And Bernie, it just we've been having some technical problems on the audio here, and it just occurred to me, if we drew a straight line from here in Washington, D.C. to your office in Burlington, Vermont, it goes right through New York, which is probably where a lot of the telephone switching stations are. That may have something to do with it, so we'll just use the old-fashioned
phone line. Let me just pick up on
line.
the point that Roosevelt just made in that clip.
Sir.
And that is, I know that there are a lot of people who are unhappy with what's going on politically in this country. But I will tell you this. In Washington, D.C., you have a small number of lobbyists who are paid huge amounts of money to represent multinational corporations. Trust me, they are heavily involved in the political process. They not only vote, they not only contribute very heavily into political campaigns, they are there every day watching every word on every piece of legislation to make sure that the rich get richer while the middle class continues to hurt. So if anybody out there says, well, I'm not all that happy with Obama, you should have done more, well, I share some of those concerns. But you believe me, I do not think you want to sit home and not vote and allow a Romney to become president of the United States and pass policies which will be devastating. Remember, Romney is a candidate who supports the Ryan budget, the Republican budget. That means lowering tax rates for the wealthiest people in this country, giving them huge tax breaks, making major cuts in Medicaid, education, transforming Medicare from the system it is into a voucher program. So if you're happy with that, then you stay home and don't vote. But I suspect most Americans are not, and I would urge you to come out and get involved.
Michelle in Denver, Colorado, listening on AM 760. You are on the air with Senator Sanders.
Hi, Senator Sanders. Hi, Tom. I have a brief comment and a question. The Republicans are so good at framing the issues to benefit the wealthy. I think Democrats should frame the issue of Medicare for all, make the case of Medicare for all as the as a significant deficit reduction, instead of talking about cutting benefits, which some of them are talking about doing now. But my question is, how can we get to ranked voting or instant runoff voting to expand the process?
Well, Michelle, good questions. I hope, in terms of healthcare, everybody who's listening understands a couple of points. Number one, the United States is the only country in the industrialized world not to guarantee health care to all people. Tom, I don't know if you recall in that infamous video where Romney was speaking to his millionaire friends behind closed doors, he said something like, some of these people think health care is a right. They're entitled to health care. You remember that?
Right.
Well, count me in as one who is one of those people.
Yep.
I do believe that health care is a right, and I want to see the United States join the rest of the industrialized world in that pursuit. And I think that's the point that Michelle is making, that if we pass a Medicare for all single-payer program, we will guarantee health care to all people. Second point in terms of health care, everybody has got to understand that in America today we are spending almost twice as much per person on health care as do the people of any other nation, and many of our outcomes are not as good. Among other things, longevity, how long we live, is way, way behind many other countries. So we spend a lot. We don't get a whole lot of value for what we're spending. Healthcare should be a right, and I hope we can move in that direction. The other part, what was the other part of Michelle's?
I don't recall. I'm sorry.
I apologize to you, Michelle.
Oh, she was talking about the multi-party instant runoff voting.
Oh, right.
Thank you, Shane.
I think clearly in any and every way to advance democracy and citizen input and the impact that people can have on elections, we have to make it easier for people to vote. Our Republican friends want to make it harder. We should make it easier. I have supported in the past, for example, the idea of making Election Day a holiday. I mean, one of the problems you have with early voting makes it easier is there's some people get home from work 5, 6 o'clock, and they're eating dinner or traffic is bad, and they just don't go out and vote. I think democracy is so important for America that we deserve a day to celebrate it, to stay home and to think about it, and to come out and vote at our leisure. In Vermont, we have experimented with the idea of being able to vote in a way that you don't have to vote for somebody you believe is the lesser of two evils. And I think we want to look at that as well.
Mm-hmm. There you go. Tim, in Columbia, South Carolina, you're on the air, Senator Sanders.
Yeah, how you doing? Question for Bernie. I also agree that I believe that health care should be a right, and American public need to stop letting the billionaires trick them to think that something socialistic, something communistic about having health care, and also how in the world did Romney tax issue become a non-issue, and when did that happen? Well,
Kim, thanks for the call. Again, one of the things that distresses me is many folks in America don't know a whole lot about what's happening around the rest of the world. Every year, a bunch of young people from the United Kingdom come to my office, and there's a teacher that brings them over every year, different kids. And we sit and talk. And for these kids, health care, it's hard for them to imagine that people do not have health insurance. Everybody in the UK has health insurance. Everybody in Australia has health insurance. Everybody in Canada, in Germany, in Finland. We are the only major country on earth that does not guarantee health care to all people. We have 50 million people who have no health care at all, and some 45,000 die every single year as a result. So what we have got to understand is what goes on in this country in terms of health care is not normal. We are way, way out and way behind much of the rest of the country. In terms of Romney's tax issue, well, I think what we have learned, we've learned a lot. And what we have learned is because of the regressive nature of our tax system, you can have people who are worth hundreds of millions of dollars who pay an effective tax rate that is lower than what a police officer, a teacher, or a fireman makes. I think that is pretty absurd.
Amen.
And I think that is also contributing to the deficit that we have, and it's something that has to be changed.
Senator Bernie Sanders with us right back after this.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 866-987-THOM.
It's Brunch with Bernie, our national town hall meeting with a man I think of as America's Senator, Senator Bernie Sanders. Check out sanders.senate.gov and thomhartmann.com. Daniel in Greensburg, Pennsylvania. You are on the air with Senator Sanders.
Senator Sanders, what an honor. You're the best. Don't let anybody ever tell you any different. Thank you so much for being such a great light in the midst of such great darkness.
Thank you very much.
I just had a question. I'm a protectionist. I'm against NAFTA. I'm against PNTR with China. And I believe we should trade with other countries that share our values and our economic values and cultural values. It seems to me that it's almost like to call yourself a protectionist is like being blacklisted. Like there's something wrong in holding other nations accountable with the same rules we impose on our domestic manufacturers. Am I imagining something, or do you think that that's true?
No, I think you're right. Daniel, this is what happened. I was in the House when a lot of this thing took place with NAFTA. What you had is corporate America selling the Congress and then President Clinton what I consider to be a real just dishonest presentation. And the theory was that if you have unfettered free trade, somehow or another the United States is going to be producing all of these goods and products that we're going to be selling to other countries around the world. I never believed a word of that, and most Americans didn't, because they understood that where you have countries that are paying workers pennies an hour, obviously what companies will do is shut down in America. Why, if you're General Electric, why do you want to pay workers $20-25 an hour in America, deal with unions, protect environmental standards, when you can go to China and other low-wage countries and not have to deal with any of that stuff? Then you bring your product back into this country tariff-free. So it was a real bill of goods that they sold the Congress. I voted against that stuff. And I think right now, understanding that we, as I mentioned earlier, have lost over 50,000 factories in the last 10 years, millions of good-paying jobs, seen wages go down for whole lots of workers, we have got to rethink our trade policies. Now, trade is a good thing. It's a good thing when it benefits American workers, when it benefits workers in other countries. It is not a good thing when we lose decent-paying jobs, when we're in a race to the bottom, when wages go down, and the only people who benefit are the large corporations and the CEOs. So we can and should develop a trade policy which does not force American workers to compete against people who have a very, very low standard of living. That's not free trade. That is just grossly unfair trade for American workers. Our demand must be that corporate America reinvest in this country and that the trade policies we establish benefit working people, people who work in those manufacturing plants, and not just the CEOs.
Lurleen, am I saying that right? Morrison, Florida?
Yes.
You are on
the air. I
have
have a question, and Senator Sanders, you're an outstanding American.
Thank you very much.
I want to find out, does President Obama have the authority to issue a presidential order to set up work programs like we had back during the Depression?
No, because those would, you can't do it by executive order, but what you can do is by legislation. And in my view, that is exactly what we should be doing. There is a lot of discussion, appropriately enough, about the deficit. That's an issue we have got to deal with. There is not enough discussion about the fact that we have 23 million Americans who are unemployed today. And it is absolutely imperative for those people, for our economy, and by the way, for the deficit, because when you put people to work, they're paying taxes and helping us deal with the deficit. Not enough discussion about the need for a massive jobs program. And let me just suggest to you two ways that I think we should and could go forward. Number one is I think almost every American who drives a car understands our infrastructure, roads, bridges are in massive disrepair. Our rail system way behind Europe, Japan, China. Wastewater plants, water systems having serious problems all over America. We can put millions of people back to work rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure. And when you do that, you make this country more productive and more internationally competitive. Second of all, despite what Rush Limbaugh and some of our Republican friends believe, global warming is real. It is very likely that this terrible Hurricane Sandy is a product of global warming. And if we don't want to see more and more of these severe weather disturbances, we've got to transform our energy system. away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency, to sustainable energy. And when you do that, you can create a whole lot of decent paying jobs. So to answer your question, I do believe we need a massive jobs program to put people back to work. And God only knows there is enough work to do in terms of rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure and transforming our energy system.
Dirk in Fort Worth, Texas. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Thank you. First of all, I just want to say thank you, Senator, for all the hard work you do. I'm a conservative calling in, and I heard your comment about how we're behind the UK and Australia in terms of health care. I've got a friend. Well, I've got lots of friends in the UK, and this one particular friend of mine told me a story where she woke up with a swollen foot one day, went in, tried to see a doctor. She was put on a waiting list because it wasn't an emergency, and so 3 weeks later she goes in. They misdiagnose her, say it was a nerve or something like that. Gets put on another waiting list when the problem doesn't go away, and it turns out she's got a broken foot. All this takes place over 3 months, and she can't get it fixed, and now she still has problems with the foot because it wasn't treated in a prompt manner. Now, as a conservative, and so far I'm anti-Obamacare, I'm wondering how it's going to be different here in the States.
Okay, Dirk, stay on the line with me for a minute, okay? You there, Dirk?
Yes. Yes, correct.
Okay, good. Stay on the line with me. All over the world, people live in systems that have health care. We have, in every country on the world, if your friend is telling you the truth, that's unfortunate. I'm sure that in the UK and I'm sure that in Germany they have problems with their health care system. But let me tell you this, Dirk. In America today, we are losing about 45,000 people every single year who die because they don't have health insurance, and by the time they get to the doctor, it's too late. In UK, and I happen to know this because my brother lives in the UK, and I meet kids from the UK, you just walk into the doctor whenever you want. Now, I'm not going to tell you that every doctor and every treatment in the UK is perfect. Of course it's not. Nor is it in America. But the question you have got to ask yourself is it a good thing that we are the only country in the world that doesn't guarantee health care to all of its people, that our health care outcomes, you mentioned a misdiagnosis in the UK. Well, I can tell you that we lose a significant number of people because they have infections, die of infections. I think the number is 100,000 from hospitals in the United States of America. Every country has its problems. But to my mind, I think we have got to look at health care as a right and figure how we do it cost effectively. How do you provide health care to all people in the most cost effective way? What role do private insurance companies play? Dirk, do you really think that the function of a private insurance company is to provide high-quality, affordable health care, or are they in it only for the buck?
Well, I don't believe that, it's not an ideal situation as is right now, but when I look at sort of this generalized health care plan that's kind of put out there, I'm still having a hard time being sold on it.
I can understand that. Look, it's and the Obama plan is far from perfect. I would go different. But this is what I want you to think about, okay? Number one, in your own mind, should everybody have health care in the United States as a right, as does exist all over the world, including the UK? Number two, how does it happen that in America we end up spending well over twice as much as they do in the UK? We're spending a whole lot of money. And number three, our health care outcomes. You describe a friend of yours who unfortunately had a misdiagnosis and a problem. But I will tell you that in this country, as I mentioned earlier, there are many people who just don't get to the doctor when they're sick. And by the time they walk in the door, it's often too late. So those are some of the issues that I hope you will think about. There is no healthcare system in the world that is perfect. None that is. None that doesn't have its share of problems. But I think we have got to address the fact that everybody in this country should have health care as a right, and we've got to figure out how we do it in a cost-effective way.
Dirk, thanks a lot for the call. Carl in Chicago. We have a minute to the break. Carl, quick one.
All right. Do you see the similarity between the California gold rush and what's happening right now? But instead of gold, it's a cheap labor rush. And companies in the United States are rushing all over the world to set up shop with cheap labor, with no benefits, with no health care, making incredible profits.
Okay, let's let Bernie answer the question.
I wouldn't use the analogy of the gold rush. Jack Welch, who is the former head of General Electric, he made a rather famous statement, and he said, if I had my way, I would put our manufacturing plants on a barge. In other words, so that they can go to the countries in the world with the cheapest labor. This is very clear. Every major corporation in our country has moved outsourced jobs to low-wage countries. Many of these guys are stashing their money in the Cayman Islands or other tax havens. I think what you're saying is an effort on the part of corporate America to really turn its back on American workers and drive us into a race to the bottom.
It's our Brunch with Bernie hour. Senator Bernie Sanders answering your questions in our National Town Hall meeting. Brunch with Bernie.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
More of your questions and Senator Sanders' answers right after this. Here on the Thom Hartmann Program, our Brunch with Bernie hour. And welcome back. Lori, watching Free Speech TV in, is it Milan, Ohio? Lori?
Milan, Illinois.
Or Illinois. Illinois. Thank you very much.
Uh-huh.
You are on the air with Senator Sanders.
Hi. I love both you guys. I got a question, Mr. Sanders. I was curious about the Romney deal with the poll watchers. They were sending poll watchers to all the polls for the people to be watched while they're voting, and kind of forcing them into forcing votes to vote for Romney. And is there any way that they're going to get into any kind of trouble for that?
Well, I think, Lori, I don't know that I understand exactly the instances that you're talking about, but this is what I do know. What Republicans are involved in is not only massive voter suppression efforts legislatively, trying to make it harder for people who don't have automobiles, for example, to vote, or for young people in college to vote. There are also instances around the country where there are efforts to intimidate people. So if you're not particularly well educated and you're low income, and there's somebody there saying, well, voter fraud is a very serious crime when you have nothing to do with voter fraud. All you want to do is vote, or to make it look like you're doing something that is questionable, and all you're doing is exercising your constitutional right. That's called intimidation, and I believe that is going on. I don't know if it's coming from the Romney camp, but it is certainly coming from certain Republican organizations around the country, and obviously that's wrong. What I can tell you is the Obama people are sending out a lot of lawyers. Lawyers are going to be making a whole lot of money on Election Day because they're going to be all over this country making sure that when people walk into the polling booth, they have the absolute right to vote and they're not intimidated.
Michael, watching Free Speech TV in Imperial Beach, California. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Hey, Mr. Hartman. Hey, Senator Sanders. Tom, I'd like your input on this, too. Senator Sanders, I was really wondering if you knew how much, I call it vice taxes, how much does the American government make off of gambling, cigarette tax, liquor tax, beer tax, and if that did stop, would that hurt the American economy? Just curious.
Well, the answer is, I suspect, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I suspect it is a lot of money, yes.
I don't know either. I know that a lot of those taxes are collected at the state levels,
right?
And a lot of state governments. Don Siegelman was working so hard to get a lottery, which arguably is a form of a tax, down in Alabama, so he could help schools. But.
Well, there's no question, though, to answer Michael's question, that state revenues are significantly dependent. Lotteries bring in a whole lot of money, and gambling casinos bring in money as well. No question about it.
Yeah. With just 30 seconds here until the break, Bernie, the thoughts on taxation in general?
Well, one of the points that is not widely discussed, Tom, is one of the reasons we have $1 trillion deficit is that as a result of the recession, revenue as a part of GDP, as a percentage of GDP is the lowest it has been in 60 years.
60 years. Wayne in Chicago, Illinois, listening to WCPT. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Hi. Yes, I have a comment and a question. My comment is, I hope that everybody in America can become politically aware to the point that they realize that if, God forbid, Mr. Obama doesn't win this election, that Senator Sanders should run in 2016. When he stood on the Senate floor for, I think it was 26 and 8 hours, it was just a brilliant display of what's going on in the real world. I hope that the American people become politically aware and realize that Bernie Sanders should be president. I hope he runs. But my question is, do you think that Obama realizes now that the Republicans are not going to work with him if he gets elected to a second term, and is he preparing for that reality? Thank you very much.
Wayne, thank you very much for that very generous comment. And in terms of your second question, it is enormously important. I have talked to the president. I've been active in the Democratic caucus. I'm an independent in that caucus. And making the point that the president has got to understand that, yes, it's great to reach out and work with people and work out differences. Of course, that is the right thing to do. But when you have a situation in which 2 years ago Mitch McConnell made it very clear, said it publicly, our major priority is to make sure that Obama does not have a second term. When we have seen a record number of filibusters, a degree of obstructionism in the Senate that we have never seen in the modern history of this country, the president has finally got to wake up and understand that these folks do not want to work with him. They want to defeat him. They want to destroy him. And in my view, what the president has got to do is to let the American people understand that not only are these folks obstructionists, they are way out of touch in terms of what the middle class wants and needs. And the way to defeat Republicans is not necessarily doing it just inside the Beltway. It's taking your case to the American people. I would like to see after the election and after the president wins, if he does not get cooperation from the Republicans, to go around this country and make it clear that you have a Republican Party that wants to give tax breaks to billionaires while they cut Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and education. What percentage of the American people believe in that? And I believe that given the president's extraordinary articulateness, he can create a situation where millions of people, Republicans, Independents, Democrats, are calling up the Congress and speaking, demanding that their senators and their congressmen end the obstructionism and vote for the American people. In terms of deficit reduction, which we are going to deal with as soon as the election is over, the American people are clear. They want the wealthy to begin paying their fair share of taxes at a time when the wealthy are doing phenomenally well. They want large corporations to be paying their fair share of taxes at a time when 1 out of 4 profitable corporations pays nothing. They want to end these outrageous tax havens in the Cayman Islands and Bermuda, by which we're losing $150 billion a year. So what the president has got to do, in my view, is demand that the American people stand up and support a progressive agenda which says that we're going to balance the budget in a way that is fair, not on the backs of working people, that we are going to create the millions of jobs this country needs, that we're going to protect women's rights, that we're going to deal with global warming, that we're going to make college education affordable. All of these ideas are popular ideas. This is what the American people want. This is not what the Republicans want. And the president's job is to bring the voice of the American people into Washington and demand that the Republicans listen to them, or else they're going to pay a very strong political price.
Jerry in New Brunswick, Canada. You're on the air with Senator Bernie Sanders.
Yes, I I'm a Canadian, and we have a Medicare system in Canada. And that gentleman that called about being worried about if you had that in the United States, well, he has nothing to worry about. It is the best system you could ever have. And as far as one of the things that I realize is that when we get into you go to an outpatient department, everybody goes. It doesn't make any difference who it is, and they're all seen by a doctor. So it's the best system you could ever have.
Well, Jerry,
I don't know why Americans are afraid of it.
Well, I'll tell you why, Jerry. Because there is a massive amount of propaganda. You may remember that during the debate over health care reform in the United States, there were ads on television. There were attacks not only on the system, the National Health Service of the UK, but on the Canadian healthcare system as well. And there were lies and lies and lies. And I think, it's interesting that right now in Canada you have a conservative prime minister. In the UK there is a conservative prime minister. Neither one of these guys are talking about doing away with their healthcare systems because they know that would be a disaster for them politically because that is what the people want. In terms of the UK, interestingly enough, Tom, you remember during the Olympics, what did they do in London? What did the British people promote as part of
that's right. In the opening ceremony.
Health system.
Yeah, right.
And here you have in America, people say, oh, it's the worst system in the world. It is terrible. And there you have in front of the entire world the people of the UK saying, we are very proud of the fact that everybody in the UK has the right to go to a doctor, regardless of their income. So, getting back to the point that I think it was Dirk from Texas who made earlier, of course, there is no system in the world that doesn't have problems. There is no system in the world where people misdiagnoses are going to be made. But clearly the United States has a long way to go to make sure that our people have health care as a right, as do the people of virtually every other major country on earth.
So well said. Senator Sanders, Bernie, thank you so much for being with us again today.
All right, my pleasure, Tom. Take care.